Tuesday, December 3rd, 2024. My name is Joey Ragona. How are you doing? It is another heart-centered marketing show where my good friend Lauren is in the house, prepared, ready to go. This is one of the most prepared people I know in the business. And that's what I love about you, Lauren. Like, you're just so incredibly organized, and you make my job so much easier. Welcome to another show here. And
Thank you.
why don't you take it off? Like, what are we going to talk about today?
We are going to talk about influence and persuasion,
Nice.
which can be a bit of a
Okay.
controversial topic for some people.
How so?
Many people see it as something manipulative and negative and want nothing to do with it. They don't want
Right.
to be coached on it. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to do it.
Yeah. I'm glad you said
And
that because I took some notes here to add to you. Not that I want to take over the show here,
no, no,
but I called it ethical influence, right? So I think that's where we're going to go. Is that right?
yes. And then the other thing is people often interchange influence and persuasion,
Right.
and it's different things. And my take on it is that it's very hard to persuade if you don't have influence.
Right. So I want to talk about that. Um are you familiar with my one of my I don't know if it's really a framework or it's a methodology that I call PreFluence. Have you ever heard that from me?
Yes,
Okay, good.
but talk some more about it because this will tie in beautifully.
Yeah, so Prefluence, I stole the idea, from Cialdini, which is he has a
Oh,
book, right, Persuasion, and I'm so into influence in a very ethical way, and so when I was creating Atlas, um, I was thinking there is some area of prefluence before the influence begins to happen. There's a precursor to it that then leads to ethical persuasion. So that's kind of where my idea comes from. So it's not. I think that prefluence has a lot to do with just it's not thought about. It just happens if you are showing up as an authentic, real human being that shows you care. That's prefluence to me, and then influence has a little bit more of an edge where you're giving a message to the world that you care about, but it's not manipulative and all that what you said, but it's still structured towards this is who I want this message to land for. Where prefluence is more about the human character and all that about who you are, which also has to do with influence. I don't know if I explained that right. And by the way, I still really don't even know exactly what prefluence means, but that's kind of what it is. It's like you don't even have to think about it as long as you show up as Lauren, as Joey, and that leads into influence. If that makes any sense whatsoever.
it totally does. So for me, influence is trust, and
Yeah.
influence is built over time. And influence comes from being a role model and demonstrating certain values and being consistent and reliable, right? And so that takes time,
Right.
and it's about your character. And
Right.
so when people see that and they see the consistency and the positive piece, right, as we're saying, positive influence, positive persuasion, then you're an influence on them in terms of you're a role model. They probably want to emanate some of the things that you do. They want to be similar. And that's why they're in your tribe, that's why they're in your community,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
And if people have that trust and you are that role model and they look up to you, not because you're on a pedestal, but they look up to you as a quality person, then when it comes to persuasion and you want to persuade them to do something that's going to be for their good, that's going to help them, that's not manipulative, obviously, then it's so much easier because they already like you, they trust you, they see that you're around. You know, you're not here one day and gone the next. There's longevity, then it's the consistency. Then the persuasion to help them make decisions that are going to best support them is much easier.
Yeah, and I want to add, if I could add to that, to the consistency, because consistency is obviously really, really important. What I like to add to that is consistent honesty in all communications.
Yes.
Right. So the more you're
Yes.
honest about everything, even following through on commitments and promises, which is where I needed to do a lot of work, still need to do work on that, following through on those things. But just being honest with everything, because that's where the manipulation comes into play, right? It's admitting mistakes, and that's part of the character. That's part of at least who I am, because I go out there into the world and go, wow, I totally screwed that up, or this isn't working. And one of the reasons why I believe my program Atlas works is because it's set up that way. It's set up to be open for all the mistakes to happen right out in the public and with people who are paying. And once you get people in there who are paying you, and you're open to say, like, this is probably not going to, there might be mistakes here. It's not supposed to be perfect. You are naturally influencing them along the way. That's what I have found.
Yes. And vulnerability, again, appropriate vulnerability creates connection, and it creates respect, right? And when we make mistakes and we can be transparent and open about it, it almost gives permission for others to be okay with it, right?
Yeah.
And not feel
Yeah.
bad about it, and not feel that they can't show up if what they needed to do isn't perfect, so to say. Not that anything's ever perfect, but you just create a great space for people, and that's why they want to be there, right?
So is there more thought to influence or persuasion?
I think it's a great question. I think that the thought with influence is less so in terms of if you know who you are, right? And you
Right.
wake up every morning and you know how you want to show up, and you know your values and you're committed to them, then it's not something you're consciously thinking of, oh, I have to be kind today, right?
Right.
It's
Right.
who you are.
Right.
But of course, we all have bad days, and we all need to be reminded, that's not how I want to show up, or that's not how I want to be. But it's more about who you are. And if you are authentic and you know yourself, you don't really have to think about it.
Exactly. That's where I was thinking as well. I think that there's the influence happens just because of who you are. And some people, because I mean, it's kind of like when, I think I told you this before, but anyway, I was on in backstage one time, and some person was going on stage, and they said, okay, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to be authentic. Right. and then they said that on stage too. They said, okay, guys, today I'm going to be authentic. And I'm like, how can you just turn on authenticity? Like, I don't know. So that's kind of where the influence goes for me as well.
And people can see through it. You know the saying,
Yeah.
you can fool some of the people some of the time. Like, eventually, people see your true colors,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it has to follow through to everything. So I've got a group going, and I had a cutoff for people who register. And I said to them, this isn't one of those situations where I'm saying it's going to end on Wednesday at midnight, and then Thursday you can still enroll, and Friday you can still enroll. So here's the thing. It is ending here, but this is why. So it also gives credibility. I'm not just picking some random date, for example. And this is just one example, right?
Right.
Where,
Right.
yes, it's going to end here, and this is why. And then they understand, and I stick to it, right? And so, because you know what? It takes a long time to build influence, and you can lose it in a heartbeat.
Exactly.
Right? One thing, it breaks trust. And then you can't, I don't think you can, if you can get it back, it takes a long time.
Yeah. That's why the honesty and the admitting of mistakes is so important. And there's like some teams are built for that in bigger corporations, like damage control and all these other things. And so it's kind of along that same line. But if you make a mistake and you damage some of your reputation per se, or maybe that's not really damaging your reputation, it's more of, I didn't follow through on this. You know, I didn't really live up to my promises here. Is where the honesty comes into play, and that's
Yeah.
the reason why I know that just the way that I operate, my ADHD and all the other little things that go on in my entrepreneur world and all these things, I am not the best person to be saying, I'll have this to you tomorrow morning, right? Like that's just not in my genes. Sometimes it'll happen. So I set myself up to influence by showing up the way that I truly am. So
Right.
and when I'm going to create a program or something, like when I was creating Atlas, I knew that if I said every Monday at 2 o'clock, you're going to get a video, then I know it would never happen. You know, maybe the first week would work. But then, so I just basically put everything in that doc completely honest and said that I have no idea when a video would come out. It's going to come out on the Monday, but it may be like 12 o'clock at night. It may be 10 in the morning. So I gave them the expectations or the non-expectations of like, okay, this is
Right.
how it's going to operate, you know, and that made my life easier. And I hope that everybody listening to this takes this into account when you're setting up your business, to set it up around your superpowers, because that's still a superpower of mine. Like I can crank out stuff really quickly, but at the same time I'm not really great at scheduling things in. Like that's going to
Right.
happen right. So when you
Yeah.
build the business around that, I think that influence is a whole lot easier. What are your thoughts on that?
100%. And so just adding on to what you said is know yourself and also be careful what you commit to.
Right.
Right. So as I said, like,
Right.
and so I, I'm normally like, I never miss a beat with that. But as my, I guess, career and everything, things have changed for me. I'm, I'm also in uncharted territory. So there've been times where I go, oh, I can knock that out by tomorrow. And then like, I don't know, it's 11 o'clock at night and I'm going like, I don't know how this is going to happen. Right.
Right. Right.
At the same time, we're all human and life happens. And I also think it goes a long way to renegotiate in a sense and say, hey, I know I said I'd have this tomorrow and this, and I can't. And so, is it okay if it's Monday or whatever it is, right? But don't just not do it. And I always think when again, it comes to appropriate vulnerability, is to be honest of why, right? So I'm not going to lie, I scrambled for today, but my dog ate chocolate in the middle of
Oh
like late,
no, that's not
and
a good
I
thing.
was at emergency vet till like I don't know what time, right? Things happen, and
Yes.
so, but I showed up. I'm here. I'm prepared, and but you just have to keep, we just have to me, those things come down to respecting other people's time, respecting that they matter, right? And it's not okay just to brush people off or just, oh, it's fine. I said I'd have it tomorrow, but you can get it Monday without like some type of communication.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and so just to bring it back, because I'm sure if people, especially if they jump in the middle of this and they hear influence and persuasion and they don't agree with it or they feel it's manipulative. Here's
Yeah.
the thing. Anything can be used for good and bad.
Right.
You can demonstrate good influence and people rally around you, and you can demonstrate terrible influence. And maybe you'll still attract those people. But here's the thing, we learn from both. So I've worked for some of, I don't know, hard people, like hard to work with, right?
Right.
And, but the influence was that's exactly how I don't want to be.
Right.
So it still impacts people. And sometimes it just helps to go, man, I know what I don't want. Because sometimes it's harder to know what you do want. Yeah, I definitely don't want that.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest, I guess, hacks that I talk about, and I found through myself is like, it's so much easier to find out what we or to list what we don't want when we're going through goals or anything like that. Every time somebody's struggling with, like, I'll ask them, "Who's your dream client? Who's the person you really really want to work with?" And they struggle with that. I always start off with, "Well, who's the people you don't want? What are those type of people?" And we usually know those things. And you're right that the negative influence on us is actually a positive influence in a way, because it gives you that list that I don't want that list. which is a good influence. And I think that one thing I want to add is, when you have like an ethical influence. By the way, thank you for being here live. I can see some people live. Hi, Collie. I see you. I think you're in the Facebook group. If you're here live, let us know by hashtag live or a hashtag replay. If you're watching the replay, that would be really awesome. And if you got a question, comment, put it in the comments. I think I can see them. And then we'll be asking Lauren as well and then having a communication with you, because this is an all-around conversation with you, not just me and Lauren. So what I was going to say is that the more you're transparent, the more your message lands with people. And what I mean by this is, because like you said, a lot of people have a negative association with influence or persuasion, whichever one you want to look at. And when I'll give you an example of this, like a concrete example. When I first did a program back in 2020, there was a program I did for, I don't know what it was, like a real cheap program thingy. And I said to people, listen, I'm going to do this idea that I got in my head. I have no slides. I have no notes. I have nothing. You're just going to pay me to come and we're going to sit together for 3 hours and I'm just going to brain dump. Like that's all I'm going to do. I have no idea where this is going to go. Right. But I have an idea of how I write copy and how I do this. Like there was some kind of an outcome of a promise. And I had 25 or 30 people show up. And I said, by the way, I don't know where this is going to go. There's no promise of anything that's going to happen after this. I'm not promising a program is going to come from this, but if there is a program that is developed, spoiler alert, there was, you will get the program for nothing because you paid to be here and help me get this out. And that's how my whole concept of like really doing like this beta program and co-creating came from, because it was like, wow, these 20 people that I had influence over a little bit, I would say, and maybe some persuasion there to give me some money and telling them that I have nothing. You're just going to show up with a blank whiteboard and that's it.
Love that.
And so it was just being very, very honest and open. So that was really cool.
I love that. And that's you. That's who you are. That's what I love about you.
Yeah, thank you.
So generous and so real. And that's why it's easy to work with you and connect with you.
Oh, thank you.
The other thing I wanted to mention is you may not enjoy someone's style of being and who they are, and you may not connect with them and they're not your person.
Right.
That also doesn't make them a bad person.
No.
Right? So they may have a lot of influence and have a huge impact, and they're not your person, and you just don't gel, but you don't judge them, right? And don't make them be a bad person, because trust me, there are lots of people that don't like your style, my style, whatever it is.
Right. Yep.
None of us are for everyone.
Yeah.
And so I think it's just important to be mindful of that.
Mm-hmm.
So anyhow, back to anything can be good or bad. It's like, you can take a baseball bat and hit a home run and win the, I don't know, not the Super Bowl, but I don't know, whatever.
I think it's the World Series.
The World Series, there we go.
Yeah, there we go. That's
you
as far as my knowledge of baseball.
You can take that same baseball bat and kill someone.
Mm-hmm.
So the choice is always how we want to use it.
Right.
So when people say it's manipulative and it's not right, that can be true. But who know the person that you're having the conversation with or involved with?
Right. Right. Is there any tips that you can give on how to influence or persuade in an ethical way?
Yes.
Anything like that? Okay, cool.
I was just going to say that. So
okay.
Again, this is my perspective. This is my experience. Not saying it's right, it's wrong. Other people could be different, right? So just take what you like and leave what you don't. But when I think about influence, I think for me, it comes down to 3 things, right? Who are you? Like, what are the qualities? What are the values? How do you show up in the world? Right? So in other words, what are you role modeling? Now, what are you showing people? That's the one thing. And then the other thing is with influence is your communication, right? How you speak to people and how you inspire them and how you motivate them and um, encourage them to raise their ambition. Like it's as if you see more in them or more for them than they see in themselves, right? Again, from an authentic perspective. And then the other thing is the relationships, like building like real relationships. I don't know anyone better than it than you, that
Mm.
are authentic and that are truly based on service, wanting to help other people and help them get ahead. So if you can be that role model and consistently demonstrate the traits and values you have, and you communicate well, and part of that communication is inspiring people and educating people and challenging people to be and do better, and then how you build those relationships.
Yeah.
And that takes time, right?
It
It
it takes
all
time,
takes
and it has a lot to do with what you said before, where you really have to understand who you are and be okay with that. And for the longest time, I have known that I've been a person who steps into like this is who I am and that's it. But there have been three times in my life, very short periods of my life, where I was not. Not faking it, but kind of like, okay, well, these guys are doing it this way, so I may as well go do that. And it's funny because I was just reflecting on this the other day because I want to write a post about this, that like things happen in threes. And I'm like, wow, you know what? This did happen to me three times in my life. One was in high school. One was when I was in real estate. When we met, I was, I don't know if
oh
it was
yeah,
around that time, but it was
yeah,
when I first went onto the stages. It was like, oh no, you got to dress the part. You got to do this. You got to do that. And I remember, spending a week going out and trying to find like the perfect outfit because that's me. I dress like a black shirt and jeans. That's it. That's how I show up everywhere. Take it or leave it. And I remember trying to fit in, and every single time I tried to fit in, and the last one everybody knows because I've been telling that story forever, 2016 to 19 with the aggressive marketing and all that, trying to fit in, it just didn't work. It just wasn't who I was. So you have to figure out who that is, and then there's the other piece, which is I'll credit my friend Sally Hogshead for Fascination. Have you read the Fascinate book, by the way?
I haven't.
Incredible book, incredible book. And it's like, so it's knowing what your superpower is. So like the position that your company is, your brand, like who are you? And spoiler, I'm a power brand, so I take a lot of position that's in the power, which is like,
Right.
go do this, go do that, don't do this, like that kind of thing. And again, there was a time of that period where I was pulling away from it. I was like, I don't know, maybe I should just be kind of like this, like, and recently I was telling my academy group this the other day because I was revisiting this as we're going through individual like branding and voice and all the stuff we're
Right.
talking about, right? And I said, as I revisited this and I looked back at what I really need to be in the position of power in a good way, like when you read the book, you'll understand what it means. There was phrases that I was using that I should not be using, which reduces the power position. I'll give you an example of this. Here's one. I could be wrong, Lauren, but okay, that's not a power position, right? It's a gentle way. And so I started using all these things because I felt maybe I shouldn't be doing the power thing and taking the position, but though that's not who I am, right? It's like I don't think that I'm right all the time, but I don't want to be apologizing before I say something in order to
Yeah.
lessen the impact that I want to have on somebody or the influence or whatever. Does that make sense? So it's that understanding of like, no, this is really who I am. And again, we're not talking about standing on a soapbox and saying, I'm right, everybody's wrong, right? Not that. But this is who I am, and I have to show up this way.
Right. And that's what I was just saying. These are our perspectives. This is our experience, and
Yeah.
other people can disagree, and that's okay. But I don't think anyone can honestly say that they haven't experienced what you have, right? Being in a position or going through a period of time where you're not being true to yourself, right?
Yes,
And maybe
yes.
at the time you think you are, Maybe at the time you know you're not, but we're all human and it happens. But here's the thing. This is why, and I say it's a saying, but it's a fact, that who you spend most of your time with matters.
Yes.
Because I mean, it's science, right? That
Yes.
we become the same as the people we hang around with.
Yeah.
We develop the same values, the habits, whatever. And here's what I also know undeniably for a fact. If you find yourself in the wrong place and you stay and you go against the flow and you stay true to yourself when others' truth is different to yours, things are going to have to split, right?
That's what
Because
happened with me.
it's not going to work.
Yeah.
It's not going to work. And
Yes.
so, again, so here's another thing that, I mean, we both know and have experienced doing it and not, well, I have experienced doing it and not doing it, is you also got to trust your instinct. And when you get a feeling, even though you might not be able to explain it or articulate it or put words to it, but something feels off, it is. And that's, I think, the hardest time to take action or go against the flow is you know it and you can't articulate it, so you can't rationalize it or create logic out of it. It's harder to trust yourself because we can't explain it.
Right.
But
Right.
it always makes sense down the road.
Always.
It will always come full circle. Oh, that's what was happening, or that's why I felt the way that they did. And what I always say to myself, and I help my clients, well, I encourage them to do this, is when you're going through a situation, and maybe this is getting a bit off topic, but and it's not good. It's like, it's shitty, right? It's not what you wanted. You've got to keep reminding yourself, this is happening for me. It's happening for me. There is a
Right.
reason. So that then it's easier not to get down on yourself. It's easier not to feel sorry for yourself. And you just got to, okay, I'm just going to go through it. I'm going to work through it. And I trust that it's preparing me for something. So here's how it comes back full circle. I knew there was a point to this. Is influence is about how we influence ourselves. It's not just about influencing other people. We have to influence ourselves as well, right? To, as you say, stay in integrity because other people are doing it and not to do it because, oh, that's what everyone else is doing. So influencing yourself is, I think, probably even more important.
Yes.
Because that's going to make sure you stay true to your values and who you say you are and who you want to be.
Yes. By the way, I want to give a shout out to the people watching. I'm just looking down here at my iPad. Narcissa, good to see you here. Thanks for being here live. And Lorna is in the house as long as her computer will let it work. I know she had some computer issues. Good to see you here. Thanks for being here. If you have any questions, let us know. I'm monitoring on the Facebook down here and anywhere else. We're on YouTube, we're on LinkedIn and other Facebook channels. And let us know with a hashtag live or hashtag replay and maybe some thumbs up if you like what we're talking about. That would be cool. Lets the algorithm know if any of that algorithm stuff really works. I don't know. So there we go. Just wanted to give some shout outs every now and then. So thanks for being here.
And then the other thing on influence, right, is a lot of people will say, and I know I've done it, I'm no different to anyone else, is, oh, these are my values, right? I value kindness, I value this, whatever it is.
Okay.
But how consistently do you embody them?
Right.
And that's kind of like the story you were telling. Oh, I'm going to go and be authentic now. Oh, well then, what were you yesterday? Right?
Yeah.
And at the same time, none of us are perfect, and we're all going to have bad days, and we're all going to show up as our worst self at some point, and it's going to happen. But it's how you, I guess, do damage control or how you course correct and how quickly you get back on track. But it is going to happen. We're all human, right? None of us are going to be robots.
No.
And so I just think it's important to know that or
One of the
understand
things-
that. Or remember it.
One of the things I want to add into this conversation is where respecting the other person to make their own informed choices and decisions about influence. No matter how great of a persuader you are, influence, all that. My third pillar, as everyone knows, is respect their timeline. And that came from the not so good influence that I had from other people before that I was in that world, because it was all pressure. It was all, hey, Friday, this closes, Black Friday, hey, it's blah, 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 Cyber Monday, whatever it is, right? And I'm not against sales. I'm not against all that stuff, but everything that I was involved was basically buy or die. That's it. That's it. That's what this whole campaign is about. I'm like, I don't want to do that. So even though the influence that I may have on somebody, and persuading them, and they're like, oh, I'm really not sure. Like, there's ways that we could go in there and start manipulating that person to make a decision if we get really good at it, which is where I was going before. I'm trying to learn the stuff because that's what I was told to do. It didn't feel right. So that whole feeling came in, right? I'm like, okay, this is not good. And so that's where the respect their timeline is. Hey, that's cool. You know what? I got you. Whenever you're ready on this, if you want to come back and talk about this, or have any more questions, whatever. So it was letting go of that expectation or that pressure and allowing them to make choices that actually, for me, it's part of my influence. It's part of what help, or maybe it's more of a persuasion. It's more of persuading when I leave it, the decision to them. Whereas I would be told, you're leaving money on the table. You can't do that, right? I'm like, I'm okay with leaving the money on the table. I'm good with that. That's cool right now.
Yeah. I was just having this conversation with my group this morning. We were talking about sales and dealing with objections and enrolling people, right? And
yeah,
I was sharing with them that for me, my litmus test or my benchmark or my line in the sand that I can leave a call feeling fully congruent is, yeah, I'd love people to work with me. I know I can help them, and I'd love them to work with me. But if I'm getting on a sales call or enrollment call or whatever you want to call it, for me, what matters most is that when that call is done, that person knows that if they're not enrolling, if they're not doing it, or even if they are, they know the truth of why they're not.
Okay.
So I don't want a person leaving and going, oh, I'm not going to do coaching with you because I don't have the time. No. They need to know they're leaving not because they don't have time, but because they don't trust themselves to do the work or whatever it is.
Okay.
And if I leave them in that space, then they've grown. They've learned, I've added value, and hopefully then that helps them. But for me, that's what matters most, is that people understand the truth of where they're at. And then I'm fine. And then, as you said, then it's up to them. Then they make their decision.
What about motive? Like, so, when it comes to persuasion, I learned this from Jay Abraham. And it was when I was doing live events, like a lot of live. And so, and when you go to live events, what do? They do the thing, and then they're going to like, okay, now I'm going to sell you on my program type of thing, whatever. So when I was doing my mastermind thingies, they would get there, and there would be the sale flyer on the desks or the tables, like right then and there when they walked in. Not after, not handed out, right? It was just right then and there. And it was like, you're here to learn the stuff that I'm going to show with you today. By the way, there's an offer right there in front of you. I'm not going to talk about it. If you do want to ask me any questions about it, let me know and I'll answer any questions. It was so powerfully persuasive or influential because guess what happened when the breaks happened? Right? Hands went up and said, can I ask you about this thing and more clarity? And it was a natural sale persuasion thing happening because it was right there in front of them, because the motive, if you want to call it that, was, I would love for you all, everyone here, to enroll in this thing. That's the goal of this, to help you understand this, so you enroll in this. So they knew the motive of it. They weren't surprised. And I am always, especially today, in today's world, everybody knows there's going to be some kind of pitch or something coming. So I don't know what you're to call it, Lauren. Maybe you can help me. If is it influence? Is it persuasion? Is it sales tactic or whatever? I don't know. But it's always about here's what I want. Here's what's going to happen today, and I'm telling you that there's this program ready for $1,000 if you want to talk about that. But I want to tell you about that now because I want you focused on the training. I want you focused on that because I know that everybody is sitting there watching the training or
Waiting.
the slides going, okay, when's the pitch coming? Like, when's the pitch coming? Whether they know it or not, it's subconsciously they're waiting for
Right.
the pitch. And so they're not fully engaged. And so I want people to
Right.
know,
Exactly.
yeah, this is I'm going to have something for you, but I don't want to talk about that right now. Just if you don't have to do anything whatsoever,
Right.
but just know that there's going to be something at the end I'll offer you. But right now, I just want you involved with this. And if nothing else, you're going to gain a whole lot of stuff just by listening to this. I just want you to be engaged. So I'm telling you right now, there is something coming. And when that comes, I will ring the bell and I'll say, offer now. If you want to leave, go leave, right? That kind of thing. It's just
Yeah.
how I like to show up. I don't know.
Yeah. And so that, to me, that is transparency. And I
Yes.
think transparency builds trust. So you say, hey, I am going to sell something. That's what, and I think anyone in today's world who doesn't know that if you, like this, there's not, right? I think this, I don't know how many people,
Yeah.
I literally don't know, show up every single week like you do for, I don't know, years, and you don't sell anything. That is
Yeah.
just, right? It's not common. It's not common at all. So if you're going to go on a webinar, you're going to, I don't know, whatever, download an ebook, whatever it is. So first of all, no, you are going to get value and you're choosing to be there.
Exactly.
That's the opportunity for people to share what they have, right? I love it when someone either says one of the two. I'm not selling anything, right? Like, there's nothing to sell here. I'm doing this, enjoy it, right? Because otherwise you say people are distracted, or you say it at the beginning. Listen, I'm doing this webinar. There's no doubt you'll get value. And I am going to offer a program at the end. If you're interested, stay on. If you're not, then hop off. But that's what's going to happen. So
Right.
then, again, it's not like, otherwise it feels like, I don't know what the word is, but it just, but people know it's coming, right? So why not just tell them it's coming?
So that's where you talk to that. You let people know that you're aware of what's going on. And by the way, Collie's giving you some much love there, Lauren. So she says, grateful to you, Joey. Your integrity is why I keep coming back to your high caliber guests. Thank you so much, Collie. Lauren is how I know you are the best in this business. Lauren, you're amazing. Love and soul hugs. That is from Collie. Collie's amazing. She's amazing at what she does. And she's here every single week. She's been here every single week from day one, I think it is. So I appreciate you, Collie.
Awesome.
I appreciate everyone watching live. There's a whole bunch of them. Lauren is here all the time. Narcissa, I see you guys. So thank you very much for being here and supporting the show. Thank you so much. Oh, that's what I wanted to talk about that. So yes, see, that's where, again, when I was doing webinars, one thing that I would say is, there's not only like there's a program that I'm going to offer. It would be, okay, and I would tell them the price because I wasn't into this whole stack thing. Oh my God. Look, I got to tell you this story. This is crazy.
Okay.
So
I love your stories.
I try everything, right? Like I go in and I try almost everything. So I wasn't able to sell a lot of stuff before, especially live. So this one time I went through a program, and I won't mention any names or anything, but I was taught how to sell at the end of the webinar thingy or a presentation. And it was like stack after stack after, all those
Oh yes, the bonuses.
right? yeah,
Oh my
here's the
God.
bonus, and it's going to be this, and then you have another slide and you add them up. Then you do another one, you add them up, and you add like on and on and on. Okay, so about 15, 20 minutes of just that, and then it's like, but you're not going to pay that. So anyway, it was in the real estate business. Okay, the real estate industry. I think at where we met at Monica's event. So she was my client, right? And so I would present there all the time, and I was say, "Can I sell my JV program?" So she said, "Yeah." So I did that, right? And Lauren, it was the only time ever in my entire speaking career that literally people got up throughout that stack thingy and walked out of the room. And you know how those are small rooms, right? There's only 25, 30 people. So you can see everybody.
Right.
And the energy that was sucked out of the room when I was doing that, it was the first and only time I did it. And then at the end of that, I sold nothing. So then Monica comes up to me and she says, I don't know what you did, but don't ever do it again. Because well, it wasn't good that people were walking out of the dang room, but it was like, she knew that that wasn't me. She goes, I don't know what you tried, but that just wasn't who you are. I'm like, yeah, you're right. So the reason I'm saying this, telling the story is because when I was doing other webinars and I would say, okay, listen, I got $1,000 program and I'm going to offer at the end, just want to let you know now and do the whole thing I just talked about, right? Like you can leave, but I want you to get a whole bunch of value here. However, I'm telling you this now because my job really is to show you why it's worth $1,000. I need to prove to you why it's
Right.
$1,000. And that's the price, by the way, guys. It's not, you're not going to see it go lower. I'm telling you right now how much it is. So it's like, if you don't think anything is going to be worth $1,000 or you don't have the money for it or anything else, you can leave. I don't want to waste your time, but don't think at the end of this that I'm going to go through all this stuff and the $1,000 is automatically going to be $29. That's not going to happen. So not only did I tell them, hey, this is going to be completely different, but at the same time, I'm going to prove to you why it's going to be worth $1,000 for any one of you that consider buying it. And again, that goes to the motive, which is like, I want to sell this $1,000 program to you, but I want to prove it to you by giving you all this value first and show you. And two, it was about being transparent. Like, this is what's going to exactly happen at what time. So I'm predicting the future for them. And that's how I went into that and not have to deal with all of the same crap that everybody was doing. And they still do it to this day. I just don't enjoy it.
When I see that, oh my God, yes, $300,000 of bonuses and whatever, I just want to like, seriously? What I've done, because I also, like you, want to add value, want to give people a lot. If I am providing bonuses, what I do is I say, okay, these are the bonuses. I'll literally show them, do a screen share. This is how much, if you wanted to do each of these as a standalone,
100%.
this is what it is. So when
100%.
I say $5,000 of bonuses, it isn't some fabricated number.
Yeah.
I've literally added up cent by cent. And so I am giving that to you. But it's not inflated. Right?
No, but what, like,
It's not
yeah.
real.
Yeah, and I
mean,
want
it
to be
is
clear that the bonuses are not where like the problem for me is. It's more
No,
about it's the whole way it's run. And I get it, it works for some people, but it just doesn't work for me. I would rather say I got a $1,000 program and I'm not discounting it or nothing. So here it is. And by the way, here, and then you do the offer. You say, here's what you're going to get in all the $1,000. And what I'm also going to do is I'm going to give you this other $500 program or this other $1,000 program, and not do it beforehand. Not go, you're going to get this, 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 and this, and
Oh,
you're not going to pay
yes,
this,
yes.
but you're not going to pay that. You're not going to pay this.
Right.
It's like, here's the $1,000, but let me throw in all of these other ones and like real value though. Say this is here. So now, if you added all these ones, yes, you can still do the ad and say, well, this is worth $3,500 over here. You're paying me $1,000 or whatever. Like, I'm cool with that. It's just the way it's delivered is where I want to be a little bit different, but totally upfront as well. You know, not do the whole countdown because everybody knows it. Like, oh, okay, it's the $1,000. Okay, when are we going to get to the real price now? Right? Keep going. And it's just like, come on. That to me is not influence.
You know
It's not persuasion.
But it works.
I know. That's the thing.
And
But that's a
what I was
negative
saying
influence
earlier,
on
just
me.
because what other people do, it doesn't make it right. I mean, obviously, unless it's like totally like a scam. It's someone else's way of doing it, and they wouldn't do it if it didn't work. But it's not for everyone. You and
Right.
I, that's not our shtick, right? So we do it. We still give bonuses, but we do it a different way. And so everyone has to find their way, and they have to, and find the people who do it their way that they want to connect with, right? If that makes sense.
Yes. 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 Yes.
So it's just different choices.
Yes.
It's different choices, and some people will like our choices, some people won't. But I want to talk about persuasion, but I also want to say, like, if I had to interchange one word for influence, for me, it would be trust. Because when you have trust, then that says everything. So anyhow, I just wanted to say that. But before we jump into persuasion, do you want to jump into persuasion?
Yeah, for sure. I want to know what the difference is in the way you're seeing it. I'm just going to look at the
Yeah.
comments if there's anything here.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lauren is saying that Jason Fladlin does the offer first on his webinars. I don't watch any of the webinars, but yeah, cool.
Okay, so influence, what we said is influence is long term. It's built over time. It creates trust. It's like more global, right? It's, if that makes sense, it's like the big picture of who someone is. It's who they are, right? So when you have influence, it's because of who you are and how you show up, and people like you and trust you, and they want to follow you, they want to learn from you, all of that.
Right, right.
Persuasion is more specific and goal orientated, right?
Exactly.
So
That there's more thinking to it.
the coach, I have influence because of all the things we've spoken about. But when they decide they want to work with me, there is that is persuasion, and I know it's it's a mutual, it's a win-win. Although a lot of people say there can never be a win-win, but with the way I look at it is, I'm not trying to persuade you to do something you don't want to do, that's not good for you, that I know to the best of my knowledge is not right for you. But I do want you to persuade you to make a decision that's going to help you, right? I want to, and so again, if I exchange trust for influence, then what I would exchange persuasion for is education or educate. So I'm not forcing you, I'm not threatening you, I'm not doing these false deadlines and all of that. But it's like what I said earlier. If someone doesn't enroll, I want to educate you about how this can help you and why it can help you. And then you make the decision, right?
Right, right.
So persuasion, the difference is persuasion is more goal specific, it's more situational, it's not long term. It's a situation, right?
Yeah, it's in the moment.
And we're doing that all the time. Like I always use the example, if I don't like going to buffets, right? And let's just say 3 of my friends do. Sure, so I am going to try and persuade them not to go to the buffet because I don't want to go there. So it might be selfish, but I'm not going to persuade them to go to some place where they're going to get food poisoning and I know they're not going to like it either, right? And so again, it comes down to the integrity of what's your intention. And if your intention has integrity, then it is what it is.
Yeah, persuasion comes again down to, for me, transparency all the way through, motivation, or the motivation of what I'm going after there. And it's funny because when I was trying to persuade subtly, or not like letting them know I'm trying to persuade, it never worked. And so now when I have calls, which are very rare because a lot of the influence and sales and all that stuff happen without even getting on calls, which is amazing because it's already been influenced and all that stuff.
Well, there's a perfect
All done.
example.
So then when I get on a call, they are there for what you just said. They are there for more education about okay, I understand this, I understand that, but I want to know about this and I want to know about that. They're expecting me to sell them, and I do not. So another thing that I get, reamed for. No, you should be selling. You should be selling. You should be selling. I'm like, no, I'm not going to sell. I'm not going to do that anymore because that's not who I am. And I don't know. Maybe let's say half, 50% of those people, which again are not like I'm not like getting leads every single day and on calls. That's not what I want in my life anyway. But let's just say 50% of the calls, they will say, well, what do you have? Like, how does it work for me? And then I will say, okay, let me put my sales hat on so I could persuade you now into buying this thing because I think it's really a good fit. Only if it's a really good fit, though. But I will say those words. I will say, let me put my sales hat on so I could persuade and sell you on this if it's going to work, right? And it totally lowers the bar of everything. Because if I make a mistake, which I make a lot of mistakes,
We
I
all
don't
do.
want to have to be that perfect persuader or salesperson or right. And I say, and if it doesn't go off the right way, if I say something that feels out of thing, then it's like, oh, that's pretty funny. I can see what you're doing there, right? So it's a joke between back and forth because that's just who I am. Is like, here it all is. Here's it laid out in front of you. My sales hat's on. Sorry, I totally screwed up. You know what I mean? And it lowers the bar for me, and it usually works. And I'm not saying this to say, well, this is my secret. This is a tactic I use. It's just how I feel as though I need to show up in order to confidently persuade someone else to make a choice or not based on like what you said. I don't know how
Right.
you think about that, but that's just the way that I do
No,
it.
no, no. I totally align with that. So, I work with a lot of coaches, right? And
Yeah.
so they struggle with this. It's hard. And so, and we're having this conversation this morning. Is that first of all, if someone is showing up to speak to you about whatever you've got to offer, there's obviously an interest. No one held a gun to their head and made them get on that call,
Right.
right? So, interest, right? And here's the thing: most people who want help, need help, haven't found the right thing, there's an element of they want to, in a way, be told what to do. They want to be led to what they want. So if you can't show your excitement, and people might, I don't know how they want to describe it, but if you can't show your excitement and your conviction and enthusiasm about what you want, then why would someone want to do it either? Right? Sometimes people just want to go, just tell me to do this, not like subconsciously. Just give me permission to make the decision.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so, how you do that is you share what you have, how it can help them. You show your passion for them, but at the end of the day, it's up to them. But being passive doesn't serve them either, because then they leave, and they've got no help, and they're back to square one. So, to me, it all comes down to what's your intention, and that's what I was saying earlier. My intention is I want to show you how this can help you. If you think it can help you, then great. And I want you to understand why or why not you're doing it or not. And then the ball's in your court. But it's kind of like, for me, the way I look at it is, let's put all the cards on the table. We put my cards on the table. We put your cards on the table. It is what it is. There's no secrets. There's no magic. Then everyone can make an informed decision.
One of the things, though, Lauren, as you're talking about this, is I want everybody. This is from my perspective of how I'm looking at this, and to what you're saying, is influence, and in my case, PreFluence, is the most important thing. And
100%.
would you agree? So that's good. We're on the
Yes,
same page because,
100%.
but like you said at the beginning, it takes time. People don't like time, and they go with the best persuasive angles, the best way to persuade somebody, and those are where the pushiness comes in because they haven't built all the influence yet and put themselves out
Right.
there to make the persuasion easy. Correct?
Yes. So that's exactly it. So this is where we started, right? If you have influence and you only have influence with people who are aligned with your values and integrity and all those things that show up, then the persuasion is almost like, it's like a default. It's like
Yeah.
what you just said earlier, right? Who you are and how people know you is that your influence. You don't have to have persuasion because
No.
they've influenced, right? And
That's why I
so,
joke about it.
yeah,
Because by the time they're on a call with me, they're already bought. They've already bought in their head. They're just kind of validating a couple things. And that's why I
they
make it
trust.
a joke, because I realize that that's the truth. I don't have to persuade, because so many of my clients have told me that. They're like, but when I got on the call, I already had my credit card ready to go. Didn't matter what you said, I was going to buy it. So I'm like, really? So that's why I defaulted now to like, okay, when they say, what do you got? I'll go like, great, let me put my sales hat on and try and sell you on this. Right. So,
Right.
and we joke about it.
And so I think that's where when people don't have the influence maybe that they want yet, is that's to me when the pushiness comes in, and that's where the inflated testimonials and results come in. It's like,
Right.
I I can't sell you on who I am, right? Because you don't know me and the time there hasn't been that time. So now I'm going to sell you on like materialistic things, right? Oh, you're going to make this $1 million. You're going to, look at me. I've got the car, whatever, right? So you're trying to influence based on materialistic things because you don't have um, the inner things.
Yeah, you don't have the
So,
deposits in their life all the way
right,
up to that point.
you don't have the foundation.
Yeah. It's kind of reminds
So,
me of the like I call it the car salesman thing, where when they come to your car and like, let's say I have some golf clubs in the back of my car, and they'll come to the car like, hey, how's it going? They'll open the car and they'll look inside and they go, oh, so you golf? I was just on the golf course the other day. Like they're trying to influence and bond like right away to get the sale. Like that's to me what a lot of people do, is they try to speed up and compress that time to, here, I'm going to influence you because I'm going to try to connect with you and look at stuff on your wall and say, oh, wow, I have the same jeans as you. Wow, where did you buy them? Did you go to Costco too? You got that sale? Wow, me too. Right. I don't
right.
know. Like,
So yeah, so it's a good point, right? But part of the process of influence and persuasion is rapport, right? There has to
yes,
be,
but not
right, but
forced and fast rapport.
no, exactly. It has to be authentic. It has to
Yeah.
be true because you know what? People will feel and know when it's not. Now, let me say that. Not everyone will, because not everyone's self-aware and in tune and present and has that emotional intelligence. Not everyone does. And those are the people that maybe get taken advantage of, fooled, whatever, right?
Perhaps. Yeah.
Right? So yes, you need to build rapport, but again, you can't speed it up. It's not like a video that you can put on 2 times speed. And you can also build rapport quickly by just being who you are, by your
Exactly.
right? You don't have to say, oh, I also play golf when you don't, or I also like cranberries or whatever it is when you don't, right? There's other ways to build rapport.
Yeah.
And right? So how come when you go into a place and you meet a whole bunch of new people, how come you attracted or you drawn to one person in a room of 100 and not all the others, right? Because there's a chemistry, there's a similarity, and maybe we don't like golf. Maybe I don't like golf and you do, but that's not what's building the rapport. So again, for me, it comes down to similar values, similar similar values and similar perspectives, and when someone has
Yeah,
that.
but that's what the point. Like, I just want to make it clear in terms of the way I'm looking at it, always that the influence like happens automatically. I understand that. Like there's rapport. Sometimes it happens really fast. Sometimes there may be a fast rapport with somebody that leads to, hey, can I buy something from you? Like that's great. That's icing on the cake, whatever, right? It doesn't happen all the time, but it does. But it was letting go of the fact of, okay, how do I influence the room today? In order to buy something from me. So it was understanding that influence basically happens on its own because I'm just going to show up and be me and not to pretend to be anything else. So like you said, if I don't like fish, I'm going to say, yeah, fish doesn't, It doesn't agree with me. I don't like. I wish I could eat lobster, but I just don't want it. I just don't like it. Right. So I'm not gonna be somebody that I'm not, just to try to influence somebody,
Right.
to build the rapport up, so that I can persuade. That was the big aha moment for me. Is like, I'm just gonna show up the way that I am, and that energy is gonna come in back and forth, and whatever happens, happens. Sometimes, I mean, I'll give you a great example of this. Eddie, one of my very, very good friends, and you saw him, I think, in Academy.
Yes.
Anyway,
Yeah.
right? So
Yes.
we're like best friends. And that happened very quickly because he's an awesome person and he reached, he's the one that really connected. But that influence and bond and everything else happened so, so fast. We were just like friends that were like 20-year-old friends forever the moment we met. And it just like was easily, the relationship grew very, very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are the things that happen. I don't even know the right word for it, but it's
There's a
like a
chemistry
gift.
almost.
Yeah, it's a
Right.
major chemistry. It's a gift.
Yeah. I was going to say something along that. When you said sometimes it happens quickly, and someone just says, "Oh, I want to buy whatever you have," right? But that probably happens because you've influenced someone else, and they trust
Yeah.
that person. So because they trust that person, they automatically trust you. Right? I
Yes.
think we've said, oh, if Joey says it's good, then I don't need to question it. I trust him. I'm all in. Right?
Right.
So here's the other thing. We don't even know the ripple effect of our influence. We don't even know, right? But here, and I think I've heard you say, I've definitely heard you say this, like when you've been, I think when I was in your academy, when I spoke in your academy, is people are watching you.
Yeah.
So even though you may not think it, even you may go, oh my God, no one showed up, or one person showed up. People are watching. And,
100%.
and, and that's where you have to be consistent.
Like yeah, and it's so true. And the hardest part about this, there's a couple of hard things. One is understanding that there's the time involved with it, and then there's the invisible people. Like credit to Dean Jackson. So the invisible client that you can't
Yeah,
see, that is
yeah,
watching you from, I call it, from the sidelines. You don't know that. And I know this happens all the time for me because the proof eventually shows up once or twice, every now and then. And recently, one of my colleagues, mentors that I look up to, friends and all these, reached out and said, "Hey, I want to set you up with Lauren because she'd be great because she's a heart center person just like you." And I didn't realize that that person understood my business the way that they were messaging me. Like, what? You're actually watching, like, what? And I was flattered. I was flattered because I was like, wow. And so that was another level. It wasn't only just a customer, but it was someone that I looked up to, that and they're watching that and they're like, oh no, I know exactly who's going to be good for you. Yeah, it was a great referral and all these other kind of things. But the point was that you just don't know who's watching you. And the only reason that happened was because I show up consistently again and again with the same dang
yeah,
message over and over and over again.
yeah,
And anybody listening to this, that they're like, well, this isn't working because you don't see the ROI coming right away. You're only making it worse. You're only starting the flywheel over and over and over again. Right. And you're going to see way more gaps in the whole consistency, or I guess return on your investment, than you will with the peaks of like,
mm-hmm.
wow, that really worked. I crushed it on that one, right? You're going to see way more valleys, way more dead spots if you look at the algorithm. And
Yeah.
if you realize that and stick to your message, when those peaks happen, they're massive.
I'll tell you something my dad used to say. And it kind of ties in with the consistency. It's a different example, but it's the same like theme. He said, he said to me, do you know how smart, I don't know, someone had lied to me about something. I can't even remember. No, I'll never forget him saying, you know how smart you have to be a liar? Because you have to remember all the lies you've told and keep it all straight. He
Yeah.
goes, if you don't lie, then you don't have to worry about anything.
Yeah.
You don't have to remember anything. And so it's kind of like the same with the consistency. You don't know who people are watching. So if you show up one day the one way and another way the other, and you think no one's watching, they are. And that's
I love
what,
that. Yeah,
you
that's a
know,
really good parallel to just be who you are, and you don't have to worry about did I show up the right way or how should I show up. Just show up. That's
right.
it's the easiest thing. No, it's sorry, it's the simplest thing, but
Simplest
it's not
thing.
the
Yes,
easiest thing,
yes,
right? It's
yes.
simple to understand, but hard to do because of all the stuff we already talked about on all our shows. By the way, go back and watch some of the shows that Lauren was already on because we talked about negative biases or cognitive biases and like all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, so I was going to say something around that. So the other thing is, not everyone's going to like you. And it's also
Go figure.
just get comfortable with that. You know what?
Yeah,
I'm not going, I, and maybe it's age, I don't know what, but I was a people pleaser for probably 30 years, right?
really.
Did what was expected of me, try to fit in with everyone because how else am I going to get through this life, right? And and then those people still didn't like me.
Yeah, yeah,
When I got divorced, they all still, my girlfriends like are going with, so here's the thing. Not everyone's going to like me, but here's the thing. I'm okay if they don't like me because I stand for something different. That's fine. I'm not so comfortable, obviously, if they don't like me because I did something against my values or I did something, that hurt them or harmed them or whatever, and that's why they don't like me. That's not okay. But if it happened, it definitely wasn't, most at this point, not intentional. But people aren't going to like you, but that's okay. There are lots of people I don't like. I got nothing against them. They're good people. I just don't like that's not for me, right?
yeah. They
It's like
just
the
don't
buffet.
fit. They don't
Nothing
fit
wrong
your
with the
world.
buffet.
Yeah,
Nothing wrong with a buffet. It's just not for me. And so, but if I'm going to try and become a buffet person, I know it's a silly example, but at the end of the day, I'm going to be miserable, right? And so you got to choose,
yeah.
you
One
know?
thing I want to go to another point here that we didn't talk
Yeah.
about, or maybe we did, but we skipped over it, is having a genuine interest for that person,
Yes, curiosity,
right?
huge.
Not only curiosity, right, but also this. I truly believe this is good for you, or I truly, I want to give you this because I believe this is going to help you. Now, I'm not talking about there is the sale part of it too, but even gifts or lead magnets or whatever you want. Like I think you should go watch this, or even if you are giving things that are not yours. So example, I might, hey, my friend has a great program, or here's a few books that I've read that will really help you on this topic, and being genuine to these things will help you. That's influence. That's influence.
Yes, and you know what is underlying that? Is not having a scarcity mindset.
Yes.
If
Huge.
you've got a scarcity mindset, you're not going to do things like that.
Right.
Not you, I mean people, right?
No, I mean
Uh,
I was there, Lauren. I
but
was there. I remember being
no, we've
I
all been
really
there.
I don't know, like I don't know if I should share this. I don't really want to know if they people know
I've
this.
also been there. Anyone who says they haven't is lying. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
Because
I
we've
hear you.
all our worst self, we've all tried these things because it seems like that's the way to do it. And if it's working for everyone else, then oh my gosh, then why I have to do it even though I know I should. We've all been there. But here's the thing, is that I can't remember the exact phrase. Like, you know what? You apologize once and it's a mistake, right? If you do it again, it's not a mistake, it's a choice,
It's a choice,
right?
yeah.
So we've all done things that went against what we thought or felt or agreed with. But if you keep doing it, then it's a choice,
Right on.
right? Then you're not certain of your values or you're not solid in them. And you know what? Sometimes it also takes time to figure out what do you stand for. And as we I don't think that changes. I just think it becomes more solidified and it becomes more important. But yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah, it's totally true that the more you step into who I am, understanding that, because that's where the deep work comes in. A lot of us don't want to do the deep work, especially marketers who want to just get the sale done really quickly. And anybody who works with me knows that that's what all my foundation is all about. Who are you? What are you about? What kind of people do you want in your life? Like, what do you stand for? What do you stand against? All that stuff. And it's not just an exercise. It is to do all of the stuff that we're talking about, because once you do that foundational work, everything else is so much easier. There's still struggle. I'm not saying it's like snap, 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 and money's
No,
coming in, but it's so much easier because of all the things that we've been talking about today, which is, well, I don't have to worry about what did I really say over there. No, I showed up the way that I am, right? That's it.
yeah,
There's nothing to worry about. And if somebody doesn't like it, it's because, well, this is who I am, and we just don't gel on that thing, and that's
right.
okay. I respect you. Go over there and stand in that other line. That's okay.
And here's the thing, we live in a world where we're bombarded with things. And
Yeah.
I also think that there's always going to be a time where we're going, should I do it? Should I not? And we're on the fence, right? Because maybe there's pros and cons. If we listen to our instinct, we would know straight away. But then, as I said, sometimes if you can't articulate it, you don't trust yourself. And so you're kind of wavering. So here's a couple of things that and I know people have heard this, not anything new, but one, if you wouldn't do it or say it in front of other people, then it's not right, right? So that's, how when you play 10-pin bowling, they've got like the bumpers in the gutter so you don't, like me, end up there all the time. Like that's like a bumper. It's like a litmus
Safety guard.
test,
Safe.
safety guard, right? And the other thing that I say to myself all the time, am I going to be able to put my head down tonight and not have any guilt and not feel bad? I always say I can sleep well at night. And you know what the crazy thing is? Other people probably also, people who are doing things that are not in our alignment, like have different values, that are different, that I look at it and I would never do that. Trust me, they sleep very well at night too because it's
I know.
aligned.
Yeah. I
But
know.
yes,
Right.
and so because of how life in the world is, I think it is important to have these triggers that kind of keep you on track, because at some point something's going to happen where there's that moment of maybe indecision. But the more in touch you are with who you are and what you stand for, it happens less and less, and it's a no-brainer. Right? No, I'm just not doing that.
Yeah.
But as you get there, it's good to have triggers to help you. Right? Try and make it
Yeah.
easier
Yeah.
for yourself, not harder.
Yeah, kind of the checklist of like, as I'm getting there to understand this is exactly who I am and not worrying about it, is having that checklist to go through that question. Okay, I'm going to post this, but would I say this in front of everybody? Or in 10 years from now, if I read this post, would it make me cringe? That kind of thing. So those are great, great tips. Keep
Yeah.
going.
So I'm just saying, like, what said, it's simple, but it's not easy. All
Yeah.
of this. So help yourself make it a bit easier by having these triggers in place. Because why not make it easier for yourself? And I think that's a philosophy you should apply to everything. So if you're trying to be healthy, then don't have chocolate in the house that your dog can eat. Why put the temptation there,
Right.
right? So this is what I love, when these things apply to every aspect of your life, your health, your relationships, your friends, your business. But that's where, if you're solid in them, you don't have to think, I'm with my friends. Do I have to do something different? No.
You just brought,
That's right.
you just triggered something here that I don't know if we talked about this or not. And it has a lot to do, in my mind, about influence, which is that you're doing it. Like, you also walk that talk.
What do you mean?
And well, Like again, if I wanted to sell you on a fitness program,
Oh,
then
yes,
right, like
yes.
I'm not that's great at influence because I'm not in the best shape in the world, right? So it's the same thing as when I wanted to build or tell explain to my tribe about building teams. Well, I didn't have a team yet. I knew what was I was doing, but I was in. But now that I'm inside it, now that I've done it and still doing it, I have more influence because I'm living it and I can and I'm showing them I'm going through it. That's what I mean by
Yeah.
living through it, doing it. So many people want to sell and persuade, and they haven't done it, and so that influence and persuasion is a little off for me.
So, and I think that's where imposter syndrome comes in.
What do you mean? How so?
Because, and maybe it's not, but I have a lot of coaches who go, I've got imposter syndrome. Who am I to coach this person, right? So the perspective I give them is, well, first of all, do you have a coach? Have you ever invested in yourself to have a coach? Because if you haven't, then I can understand feeling like that, because now you're getting someone to try to do something that you've never done. So to me, that there's a level of incongruence there. And I understand. You should feel like that. Those are my standards, right?
Yeah.
Imposter syndrome in the terms of, who am I? I'm not perfect. No, none of us are perfect. But you're putting an effort to it every day. You're doing the work, so you're on that track. So I'm trying to think of an
Yes. So there's a
example.
yeah. Okay. So it's kind of like imposter syndrome is there, but what I'm saying is if I didn't build a team and I'm trying to sell you a course on how to build a team
Yeah.
and I'm
Oh
trying to influence you, I haven't done it. I
no, you got
understand it. I'm reading about it. I'm trying to do it, but I'm trying to influence you on false positives, if you want to call it that. That's what I'm trying to say.
yes,
So
yes.
yes, imposter syndrome might be in there going, well, who am I to tell anybody to build a team when there's other people who built teams with hundreds of people and I only have two people, right? So who am I to tell you that? But there's a
Yeah.
lot of experience that I have as a solopreneur moving into building a team that I now can share with people that I could build a course around if I wanted to. Just as an example, even with Atlas and all these things that I've built, is like, no, I went through all of this. I understand what it was like to build programs and not sell and then raise my prices and all these things. I've done it. I've experienced it. Do I have imposter syndrome all the time? Who's going to buy this from me? Why should they buy it only from me? But that's what I mean. Is so I used to try to influence people in sometimes in a way, especially in the real estate world, where I was okay, but it was like I haven't raised hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars. I've raised a little bit, but not a lot, right? So maybe I was trying to influence in the wrong way. I don't know. I wasn't trying to fake it, but it was more if you haven't done it, then that's where the transparency comes through for me. So in other words, let's say for example, let's just use the team thing again. Let's say that, listen, Lauren, I want you to join my How to Build a Team program. By the way, I haven't done it yet, but I'm doing it. And I think I've gathered a lot of great information that we could use to build this thing together that I'm going to share with you. I've consolidated all this stuff. So it's being that transparency to say, I'm not there yet, right? But there's a lot of fake influence. Like, here's the outcome that I'm going to help you and persuade you to buy, but that person hasn't achieved it yet, and that gets under my skin. That gets under my skin.
So how do you feel about this? Someone we both know um, teaches this, or like, I don't know, shares
Lay it
this,
on me.
is that there's different ways to be an expert, or there's different ways to share your expertise. And one way is to have done it yourself, right? And successfully done it yourself, so you can help other people do it, right?
Yeah.
And another way to do it is, and I'm interested in what you think about this, is that you've studied it, dissected it, looked at it from every angle, and you've taken the best of everything and
Yep.
synthesized it. So no, you don't have to go and study for 10 years. You don't have to read 500 books. I've done all that research, I guess.
Yep.
And so this is what I know.
Yep.
How do you feel, like, what are your thoughts on that?
Okay, so there's a difference between expertise and experience,
Yes.
right? So I could pick up any one of these books behind me and read and be an expert and know a lot of stuff. And I could talk about it till the cows come home. And that's an expertise, and I'm selling knowledge, right? So there's knowledge and there's expertise, but there's no
Yes.
experience there.
That's a
There's a
great
huge
distinction.
difference. So then I cannot guide you. So in other words, I can tell you how to go and fight with swords on the battlefield, with all the moves and all the kind of stuff. But as soon as you get on the battlefield with the enemy, things are going to change. No matter what I drew on the whiteboard and all that stuff, things are going to change when you get on the battlefield. So I can't tell you how to navigate and guide you, right? I can't tell you five steps from now, there's a landmine. You need to not step there because I haven't been on the field. That's how I feel about it. So in terms of like the guidance, there's two areas. There's expertise and there's knowledge. And on the other side, there's guidance. There's guidance and first comes experience and then guidance. So if you have all four of those, you're gold.
Oh, then it's a slam dunk.
You're gold. But I'm on the side of, well, this is great, like selling knowledge and information and consolidating, but you don't have enough experience, or you don't have any experience whatsoever to navigate when something happens that is out of the theory. It's still theory to me. It's still theory. I'm not saying never do it because I've done it a billion times. I'm not saying it's wrong, but I'm saying that now,
but it's different.
it's a completely different thing because the world now needs guide. That they need guide. There's information and knowledge to me is useless. Like anybody can go anywhere and get it and get it, but it's like how do I navigate this? And to your point, one of my genius areas. So you got me on a tangent here, Lauren. So one of my genius pieces here is doing that, is consolidating all of the stuff into tangible chunks of this is good from this is good from that, this is good from this. And I tried to sell that before. I tried. And for me, it didn't work because I didn't do it. Like there was no expertise or experience behind it. When I actually built Atlas and when I built it and when I got high paying clients and I created the course out of nothing. Now, when anybody says, well, they can shoot anything at me about pre-selling and co-creation, all that. And I've got pretty much all the answers. Here's what you do. Here's what you do. You can't stump me on it. It's very, very difficult to stump me. Not because I think I'm the best. It's because I've got experience in it. Because I've tried the things and then, well, that didn't work. Right. So I don't know if I answered your question. Really.
No, you did.
But,
you absolutely did.
Yeah.
And so what I was just what I was going to add to that, just to that just like brings it home. Or another example is, I know when I was hiring coaches for I don't know how many years, when I first started, it was all about, well, what certification have they got? Now they got a certification. Are they? And at the end, it was, I don't care if they've got a certification or not. I mean, it's nice if they have. But what is their experience? What do they bring to the table? Because as you said, it's like the whiteboard. I can put anything on the whiteboard. I can go and get any certification. That doesn't mean I can do it. And so for me, it became, what have you done? What, matters way more. And I think now in the world, I think businesses and companies are leaning more to that, is that the experience, doesn't matter if you don't have an MBA. I mean, maybe in some places it does, but can you actually do the job? And well, I want to always going to.
Yeah. So let me add to this just to give another perspective and angle to this, because I know that when I say this, it's very, it's very opinionated, right? Like, no, you can't sell knowledge and information and expertise and all of that stuff. But here's the thing. Let's say again, let's go back to my crazy example that I was going to teach you how to build a team for your business, and I've never done it before. Okay, Now, as long as I'm transparent and say, look, I think I know how to build teams. And I've never done it before, and I want to co-create with you, and I've taken all the greatest stuff out there that I want to apply to learn to do it together. You might say to me, well, why would I hire you if you've never done it before? What's the experience you have? Here's the thing. I don't have experience in building the team. What I do have experience is in 40 years of entrepreneurship, that I could look at all the data that you might be looking at in a different way and be able
Yes.
to apply it in a different way. I don't know if it's
Yeah.
going to work, but that's what I'm talking about, Lauren, is when you're selling information and knowledge, is like you have to have some kind of experience to bring, to connect the knowledge and information, even if you've never done it, so that you could, again, be transparent about it and say, I'm going to teach this and we're going to do it together. This is what I did with Atlas. It's exactly the same thing. I don't know how it's going to work. I've never done this before. I never did a group program, but here's what I know about doing all these failed attempts in terms of the online business world. So I brought all that experience and all my business and entrepreneurship knowledge, expertise, in order to take the information, the spaghetti wall of information, put it together, and then create the thing
Yes.
out of it. And that
Yes.
gave me the knowledge and the experience that I could now guide people through. Does that make sense?
Right. Yes.
Okay.
So in a way, what it makes me think of is the wisdom that you bring
Right.
because of what you've learned, the experience you've had, even though you haven't maybe built a team, you've seen other teams being built. You've been part of teams. You've studied it. There's a wisdom that you bring
That's right.
that adds value. So
That's right.
yes, I can see, in a way, I can see where the landmine is. I can't guarantee it, but I've
Yeah,
seen.
there might be a landmine there. Like
Right.
from my perspective, there might be a landmine there. Let's avoid that area, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I don't have to have stepped on the landmine, but maybe that medieval times thing, right? I might never have been on a horse doing that thing, but I've been to so many shows. I'm telling you now, on the third run past, this guy's going to fall off.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
I don't have to have been the one to go past 3 times and fall down on the third.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I've seen it enough. So here's the thing. When you find when you've seen it enough, you learn the patterns. And when you know the patterns,
Fair enough. Fair enough.
to me, that's where the value is.
Yeah. Fair.
But it comes, again, it's decades. It's not, you can't just do that overnight. So it's a lifetime of what you bring to the table.
Yeah, it's connecting your experience. That's why I call it life tuition, right? Life tuition is a huge thing
love
for me,
that, yeah.
right? So that's my life
you
tuition
about
that I
that,
put in.
yes.
Thank you. Yeah.
Just remember, yeah. Okay. Yeah, so again, everyone
good?
might have a different opinion, and that's okay, but it's such an important topic. I'm glad that, thanks for having me. And
Yeah. Thank you for having for showing up again. And is your dog okay? Yeah, dog's okay, right?
guy's getting antsy, but he's okay.
Good.
Hey.
Good.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. The chocolate is not so fun with yeah.
And to add insult to injury, there were raisins in the chocolate.
Oh, raisins not good.
The most toxic. So it was like double trouble.
Well, I'm glad that that's getting
But
better.
it's all good, and thanks for asking. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
you bet. Lauren, it's a pleasure as always. We'll see you again. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here,
Thank
for watching us with the hashtag live, hashtag replay, if you're watching on the replay. And go back and look at the YouTube or the Facebook playlists. Lauren's been here. A whole bunch of amazing guests have been here over the past, 5 years. So I think it's that, coming up to 5 years, at least 4. So yeah, I've enjoyed doing this Tuesday nights, every Tuesday night. Now here's the kicker, by the way. This has never happened before, but I guess the way that the calendar works out is we're going to be off on Tuesday. When are we going to be off? So there's not going to be 2 episodes, or an episode on the 24th of December or the 31st, obviously. So
Obviously.
this is the only time in the last 4.5 years that I've never done a Tuesday. And so we're going to take those those 2 weeks off, and we'll see you in January. But that doesn't mean we still got a couple more weeks yet, and we'll see you next week for another heart-centered marketing show. Have a great night.
Awesome. Thanks, Joey. Bye.
Thanks, Laura. Bye.